One of the GAO's recommendations is to delegate decision-making to the lowest level practicable. Do each of you agree with that recommendation, and do you think that this extends to the hiring of qualified individuals and the issuance of contracts? And I'll give you a little background. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that in addition to the delays in issuing contracts, I've heard a lot from recent graduates about significant delays, sometimes over a year, in terms of extending a job offer. Just last week, a number of my colleagues and I sent a letter to Secretary Mattis about direct hire authorities, urging that each of you help implement those authorities within the across the board within the Air Force, but particularly concerned about AFRL. So I just wanted to get your sense for how you view that recommendation and how far you think it extends.
Senator, in general, yes, the decision-making should be at the lowest practical level, and in that regard, I'd highlight the acquisition authority that was just recently returned to the Air Force, and we're working that through with the Department of Defense now. With respect to hiring, I'm not sure what the cause was behind what you identified, but remember, we also just went through a hiring freeze, and also an uncertain budget situation, and sometimes those decisions are based on the fact that we just have no certainty with respect to the budget, and budget certainty does affect managers' decisions.
Absolutely. My understanding is that was not the case, but we'll get you those details just so you fully understand the situation.
Sir, I'll let General Greaves and General Raymond talk to the specifics on acquisition and decision speed and decision authority. What I'd like to highlight for you is the importance of looking at this from both a requirements and an acquisition, because to acquire, you've got to start with a very firm set of requirements. Right. And here's where I think we have got to get to. The analogy I would offer you is that today we're building a tanker called the KC-46. We're not building that for the United States Air Force. We're building that for the Joint Force, because anybody who needs airborne refueling is going to use the KC-46, to include our allies and partners. Right. The Chief Requirements Officer for the KC-46 is the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. And if anybody wants to change the requirements, they have to come to me to change those requirements. We have got to get to the same level of decision authority and deliberate oversight of requirements in the space business. That's the same way we acquire others. So as we work our way through decision authority and acquisition, there's an equivalent discussion we need to have about decision authority for holding requirements firm.
I would pile on that. I think strengthening requirements at all levels is important. I think the other piece of this that's important is making sure that we have the analytical rigor to inform those requirements. When we have that analytical rigor, we've been able to move pretty rapidly. And then I would also add that we are also focused on using rapid acquisition authorities more broadly than what we've done in the past. Senator, in your state, we have the Operational Responsive Space Office, and we're working hard to use those authorities more broadly.
Right.
Senator, as Commander of SMC, I think the single biggest improvement we can make, you've already provided language for us, but Secretary Wilson said, moving the milestone decision authority back to the services. And as the Secretary said, we're working within the department to execute that. As far as contracts, I know specifically with our advisory and assistance contracts, our support contracts, 3 or 4 years ago, there was a problem with those contracts. And within the last 3 years, we've optimized and consolidated the requirements process that generates those contract awards. And we've seen a drastic reduction in the time. We're not in the time needed to award those contracts. So we're addressing those. Thank you.
Thank you, General.